right. Hi, everyone. This is Chris, and thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you're coming by to paint along here. We're all going to work on this gorgeous drawing and painting. We're going to go to Quebec City, Quebec, Canada. It's a beautiful chateau. It's the Chateau Frontenac at along the St. Lawrence Seaway in Canada. And with this, as we can see from this photograph, I went online and just found some really beautiful photographs of this area. And this is really nice. It's very dynamic. We have the boardwalk here along the seaway. And it's really kind of, it's a dynamic feel of when you look at the picture, you're kind of drawn in to see the scene, and it's really exciting. So that's why I chose this photograph, and we're going to simplify this. We're not going to get into every detail here, and we'll kind of explain as we go how we're going to sort of simplify this scene and get a good effect, a nice, pleasing effect with our drawing and painting, and not get too burdened by thinking that we have to get every detail on this. Because you can see there's a lot of windows, there's doors, there's all those planks on the walkway there, the boardwalk area. So we're going to minimize these things, but make them exciting at the same time. And we'll have a fun time here. Let's get into it. So I basically took this photograph and I looked it up on my laptop online. So I have my laptop across from me. So I have that same photograph we just saw on my laptop across from me, where I'm working from on my table here. And we have some Arches rough paper. And it's taped with good artist tape. And we'll get started. So we're going to always do our same method here. We're going to look at the photograph. We're going to see where maybe our key areas are that we can make points on our tape, our masking tape. So we can kind of see in this scene that we have the buildings that start right here. So I'll put down building there. Then about 1/4. So if I make this half, quarter, about a little bit less than a quarter of the way is that's the wall there. It's a retaining wall. And the main hotel tower of the structure is about center. Call that the tower section of the building. And it might be a little bit, that's about halfway, I'd say. And then the distant portions of the building, the hotel, are about halfway from the edge of the paper this way from the tower section, the main tower. And then the walkway, boardwalk area is about there, so it's kind of matches up with the edge of the building here. All right, so now we have a decent amount of reference points, and we'll also get there's some trees and the distant horizon. That's about halfway. Might be like here, maybe a little more than. Okay, so I'll put that line there. All right, that's enough information here. We can make this start now. We'll get our pencil ready here. We have our mechanical pencil. It's a 0.7 millimeter. And before we start drawing, let's take a quick break. It's always good if we're doing like layout and concentrating on everything and putting a lot of effort into this work before we start. It's a good time, maybe take 5 minutes, relax a few, and we'll come right back and we'll start the drawing. Okay, we've relaxed a little bit. We've just refreshed ourselves here. We're relaxed. We're coming back. We're going to start our sketch. So we did our points around the exterior of our rectangle here, and we're going to start with maybe we'll start with the tower section, and we can start there. And it's I would say let's do a preliminary sketch here. Very lightly. We're just going to try to get the so we're trying to get the basic feel of the structure here of the hotel. And I see that I'm pretty much close to where I'm supposed to be when I get to this point. So that's good. I've kept myself pretty close to the photograph of the structure, and we'll come across here, and there's in the distance a towering structure there. And then there's another building here. Then we have some trees here and bushes and interesting and in the photograph there's lots of details on this right side with benches and railings, and we're not gonna get too worried about that. We're gonna try to minimize that, and I can do that by I might have shortened this up a little bit, the distance between the bottom of the rectangle and where the benches and the railings and things start, which is fine. That gives us more, we're being creative here. We're making our own decisions on how we might enhance the drawing a little bit to help us when we're, and there's a couple light posts here, so we'll capture those. And we'll start working across this way here. And if I look across here and I sort of angle it, I can see I'm on my angle pretty well here. I can do that. very lightly, and then that is pretty much a straight line. There's some grass along here, and there's the boardwalk, of course, right directly in front of us, and then about here, I'm gonna continue working from the tower this way. And that looks about good. I might have minimized things a little bit up this way here. And there's some buildings over here, so I'm going to try to simplify some of this here. And again, we're going to try to simplify this scene. There's so much detail. And then there's a stone wall, retaining wall that goes all the way along this boardwalk area, and a staircase here. And then this stone wall comes along the grass here. And it has a right angle that goes back this way a little bit here. Let's see if that lines up. So we have that there. And in the picture, that's pretty close to that mark there. So we're good there. And the height of that wall is approximately a little bit above the horizon line. I think this might be and we have another wall over here. probably stone or concrete, and we can simplify that. We don't have to. And there's another roof here. And some brick. There's a brick house here with some windows. Okay, there's so much detail here. I think let's take another break. I'm starting to lose my concentration a little bit, and we'll come back and we'll just get the rest of the details in this section over here where the apartments and houses are here on this hill, this little bit of a grassy hill here up on the left. And then we'll get some more minor details just to give us a guide as we paint along these distant of the hotel over here in this portion. Okay, so we took a break, relaxed a little bit here, and we're just going to zoom one more time in on the scene, our photograph. Let's take a zoom in here, take another look. This is, our drawing is coming along really well. Again, this scene has so many details. We just want to relax and really just capture the overall feel of this. What's really nice about this is there is a lot of darks and medium tones in this photograph, and places that we can really accentuate the darks and the medium tones, and that's really going to make the beauty of the actual painting. With the especially the line of the buildings. And then the hotel, of course, and the beautiful spires and the turrets all along here. And also this the trees over here and the darker areas of like the benches and things over here. We can kind of use all of those darker darks to, really accentuate the picture and make that like sort of the focal point, the really beautiful undulating outline going all through the picture like this. And then we have these really striking lines here that draw us into the picture to make it very dynamic. So this is just overall fun to work with, and we don't have to worry too much about the finer details of this because we don't have to add those in as much. So we'll start the painting in just a few minutes. Let's finish up our drawing. Just make sure we have all our details that we want. I'm going to zoom back out again here. So for the most part, we have quite a bit of detail. I think I'm going to do this here. This is like the grass hill that goes up. And then over here there's some bushes and maybe we could put in something if we want, a tree. You can add things in if you think it's going to help the composition and the picture. There's some steps here. And over here, I'm just going to leave this more abstract. At the very edge of the painting, we'll capture the red brick building here. I'll just soften that up a little bit with an eraser. And I think that's pretty good. Let's get some of these last final details along these roofs where there's some dormers. They're a little smaller. Again, we check our scale. We kind of make sure we're getting the scale pretty good. These are pretty small in the photograph, so again, perfection is not needed here. We're going to just capture that overall feel of the location and the couple vertical lines just to show the approximate building vertical lines. And there's some darks over here. And again, I'm not going to go too much with details everywhere. And this is okay, that looks pretty good. And this will be that's pretty much a plumb line from that building to here. And then from there, I'm just going to put some lines, indication lines, so that if we go in to add some detail, we'll have it already in there. If we want to, we might not make much details on these planks here. What's really nice too in the painting, it looks like it just rained. So the planks, the wood boardwalk here, walkway is sort of has some rain on it, some shine to it, so that really makes a nice effect. So we're going to have some light. As we look at the photograph, there's like a really exciting bit of light on the boardwalk right in this area here, so we'll make sure to capture that when we're painting. And then it's sort of becomes lost and found here and there on this side over here in the more of the foreground. This closer to us here. But we're just taking notice of that now as we're finishing up our drawing. And we look at everything, and everything looks pretty good. There's some interesting decorative stone here on this wall, so I might just make a couple. And this is a stone wall, so I'm just going to put some round shapes, rectangular shapes, just to remember to paint those in a little bit to capture that feel. And there's some dark over here along this area. And I think that's pretty good. And again, we'll put in some of the details just really abstractly. But we could do some pencil marks just to give us a, so when we go in to do a couple brush marks with our paint, we can kind of, and then on these we won't worry too much, but on these we can do some random markings here, and there's some spires over here. Okay, this looks good, I think. Okay, we're ready to paint for the most part. There's a couple Okay, once again, we're done drawing, and let's take another break. Right before we go into paint, let's just take a quick break, and we'll start back up in just a second. Okay, we took a break and we're ready to paint. This is the exciting part. Let's really get into this. We're gonna, on this particular painting, let's kind of we'll do a cross between glazing and alla prima painting. So I guess in this painting, I'm gonna just go in and start working, and I'll probably start with some of the darker darks here and middle tones. And the roof, I think I'm going to start with the spires and the roof areas and some of the trees, the darks. And then as I do that, I'll work toward the middle tones, and we'll see how that goes, and then we can work from there. But I think this will be a more abstract painting. We won't go too much worrying about a lot of every detail about this, because we know, we looked at the photograph, it's got, so much detail. It's just, it would not really lend well for this painting to have all those, all that extreme detail of every window, every door, every every plank, all that kind of thing. Let's just simplify it down. Let's do it. Get our brush here. I'm going to use a smaller brush. I just have some fresh water and a Klinsky Sable round brush. And we're going to start in with our darks. Let's do some French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and maybe a little. I'll work in a little bit of the darker black here, some Payne's gray, and ivory black. And I'm going to try to get the overall shape of things. And if we need to, we can use a needlepoint brush when we're done with this and add some more details to the spires of these portions of the roof. And there's some and again, we're doing the darks here. And then I'll work my way over this way here. Here in the distance, it's a little lighter, a little cooler. I'll add a little bit of cerulean blue to that mixture. And while we're working on this, we can So I will do some fine detail work here with the needlepoint brush, and this way I'll just do it now. Now that I think about it, it is probably better to wait to do this real fine detail, because if we put in a sky wash, these smaller, really fine details could get disturbed by the sky wash that we put in. So maybe we'll wait on the finer details of the spires. And that's just something you can, as we work as watercolor artists, it makes sense. It makes sense, right? We work things out as we go. If you think something is going to be better, you can change your mind on it. And we'll work on some of the rooftops now, the green copper rooftops. Change the tonal values of these as we go. There's some and we're mixing up the colors here a little bit. Some variation. We could leave some whites of the paper. That's fine. That'll work out good. And we can start blending in some, we'll make some brick color here. That's burnt sienna, raw umber, maybe a little alizarin crimson. That looks pretty good. That'll lighten up too as we go. And here's where I might take my time a little. Mix in a little bit of variation. Splash a little bit. And there's some darks over here. So I'm going with lights and darks, just taking my time. I keep looking back and forth at the photograph just to and I'm trying to get that variation here of different colors as we're painting these rooftops and the buildings. And in the distance, it's more we can leave some white of paper here and there. And it's probably good to let some of that green mingle around too on the paper. As we get closer, we could use more intense color. So that's sap green and olive green. as the colors get closer, they get a little more vibrant and more intense. In the distance, things are a little more cooler and more softer in tonal value, lighter tonal values. We can always come back to and add some white, like titanium white, maybe a little bit of that, just to do a few windows or things like that, some details if we want to. And some cool colors. Let's use some cerulean blue here. Some cobalt blue. Okay, I'll wait to add in this dark roof here, since I put this paint wash in here. So if you put a wash down, as we know, when we do alla prima like this, we're kind of always like looking at areas where we might decide we're going to paint, but then we might say, well, we just painted this large section here, so we're going to want to wait to do this rooftop here before we put in paint, because if we put like a dark, the blue and burnt umber and the mixture here, the darker mixture, if we put that here for this roof, while this is still wet like this, it's going to just all blossom out and cauliflower and bloom out into this section here, and it'll all get disturbed with the colors mixing, and we'll lose that shape too as well. So does that make sense? We'll kind of wait. As we're going along here, we're looking at areas as we're painting, and we're sort of making that choice whether we're going to put the paint in or we might wait and work on another section and then come back to it. And this is a case where we'd come back to this, but we can keep going over here. So we can work on this this rooftop. And it's light in tonal value, so. And I'm mixing the greens here, olive green, sap green, viridian. Makes it more interesting. And then there's sap green. Let's do this here, sap green, a little bit of burnt umber, and some blue. It seems that this grouping of this tree up here is pretty dark in tonal value. We could take this and just scrub around a little bit for this tree here. And we could add in some more color if we want. Maybe up top it's a little bit. And we leave some white paper. And make a nice dark green here. Again, we're going to go. This is and I just move my brush around all different ways to try to just get the feel of the trees and bushes over here. And this is good. It's and we could add in some cadmium lemon yellow, maybe there, just to change it again, the tonal value, and it's getting closer, so we can use more interesting colors, more intense colors here as this gets closer to us. The subject matter here, and we could do some splashing just to give us a little more feel of some and again, we're keeping this very loose to start with. We can go back in and do details. And I'll get some more greens here. Sap green, viridian green. And I'll continue to work on the roof here, and little bits of dark aren't gonna some dark under here. It looks good. Now this is dry over here. We can go in with maybe our darker dark for our roof. This is kind of a cloudy day, or, a cloudy day with maybe some sun here and there peeking out. So I think I'm not going to make too much of a real worry too much of the light and shadow of things. I think I'm just going to leave this more as if it's overcast a little bit. And this way, and we'll blend in some greens here. Okay, so you can see we've worked some really good darks here along the roof, the roofs on these spires on the hotel, and the greens for the copper roofing along these the rooftops here, and some dark sections of these trees here in between the buildings as they're coming closer to us. So we have that, and I think this would be a perfect time. We'll take a break, and then as we come back, we'll start to think about maybe we'll go over here and work on this section on the right side, or we might continue over here. So we'll see how it goes, but let's take a break anyway, refresh ourselves, and we'll come right back. Okay, so we're back and we're going to do a little more painting here. We're sort of halfway through. I'm going to leave these washes here because these aren't too muddy. These are still looking pretty good. Down here I'm going to clean this up a little. So it's good to keep your palette, pretty much clean. If you see your colors are still looking really vibrant and intense and, identifiable, you can kind of see that there's, there's some of the sap green down here in Viridian up here, and then there's the reds and the blues here. So that's good. And the green, the dark greens here. That's good still. That works. Down here was getting a little muddy. So we're going to clean that area up, keep our palette nice and fresh with fresh paint. And we're going to continue here. Let's, I think we'll do maybe some work over here. We'll do some darks over here and some splashing. We're going to do the trees over here. A little bit of blue, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. Get some darks in there under this by the shadow. Then as we go a little bit up higher, we'll use some olive green. And we could do a little finger painting sometimes if you think that'll work. It's sometimes when you're painting, you can use a little dabbing to get some nice effects with the trees. And there's some buildings over here as well. We can do a little bit of blue. As the trees are in the distance, they get a little more cooler. Like that. So we use some Viridian there and some cerulean blue with the green. As the trees are in the distance, they're cooler. And we see a structure there. And there's some windows. And looks like a maybe like a small building for information. Travel information or something similar to that. Okay, that's good. Well, maybe we'll work over here a little bit. Let's see here. We got an interesting cadmium red. There's a red rooftop here. That looks really exciting. That's interesting. That's a more of a interesting bright color, intense color there. That's and a little bit of orange. And then we can work on some of that brick color. That was burnt sienna. Maybe some raw umber, a little bit of alizarin crimson. Yellow ochre. And a little bit of change in tonal value, so I add a little bit of cerulean blue in there. And again, the colors get a little more exciting and more intense as they get closer to us here as we're working into the foreground area. And then we have, and then that turns a little more to the red. So this brick is a little bit and a little more orange. Have fun. These are exciting colors we're working with. I just look at the photograph back and forth, and I look at it and say it looks orange and red. And raw umber. That's more of the shadowy kind of color there, and that's more, if you go over a line, no big deal, you can take a little tissue and wipe that bit of paint. You can go back also with some titanium white later if you find that if you want to fix up a few spots with titanium white, that works. And there's some dark shadow under there, so we'll put in a little shadow color there. And then there's some grass over here maybe. Again, we'll keep this over here, not so much detail. And then we're going to put some grayish. So we'll go with some raw umber. Maybe some olive green, cerulean blue, a little bit of red, kind of mix it up a little there, burnt umber, it's going to be a stone color, so it's going to be more blue. And as you can see, it makes sense, right? Like you kind of work your colors and keep looking at it and see if it needs to be a little cooler. And then you look back at your photograph, your reference photograph, and you kind of look and just try to match up as best you can. So here I'll make some more stone shapes here, and try to mix up the colors. Cerulean blue, alizarin crimson. And I try to leave that a little spotty there, and we try to keep those stones on the corner of that wall to the picture, and then we can burnt umber and cerulean blue, raw umber. And that should be pretty good. We'll work in some of that green. I'll use some sap green here. Some raw umber. Okay, that looks pretty good. We could do some along the top of that wall. There's a stone on top of that wall. We can leave that like that. Then we'll come back and do a dark shadow under that capstone of that wall that runs along there. That'll give a really nice effect. Some shadowing. And you can see we're really almost getting to the point where we're close to finishing. We'll do some. It looks like there's just some very light tone or wash on this part of the wall. So it's almost like almost white, maybe a little bit of a greenish color on that wall. It looks like a little bit of a bluish green, so I'll put some green and blue. I'll change it around a little bit, so a little bit of sap green. A little bit of that gray mixture too. That looks pretty good. And we'll come in and do some of the details. Once this is all dry, 100% dry, we'll go in with some darks and do some windows and a few trim areas. And these here are a little darker. So we could go with the same mix we were using here. Some green, some of the grayish mixtures. We can go over these dormers on this side over here, because if I'm looking at the picture, I'm noticing they're not white paper or really bright white. They are a little bit lighter in tone, darker in tone than the white paper. So I make sure I try to add a little bit of tone to these. Tonal value, and same with these. Okay, and then we'll work on a little bit of. Now it's less stressful. Does that make sense when we're at this point in the painting? It's less stressful. We kind of have most of it done. So we're really kind of, just, we're not worried too much. We're not stressing. We're just sort of, we know, all right, we got most of everything completed. It's sort of like a sports team when they're playing and they've kind of won the game and they're finishing up the game and they're still playing the game, but they already know they have enough points that they're going to win. And so that's how it is with the painting. Once we get to this point where we've done most of the painting, then it's kind of like more fun. We're just doing our normal routine things as we do as watercolor artists. And we're just enjoying it because, we're not stressed too much now. We have most of everything completed. Everything's looking good and pretty solid. And we're going to do some more darks here. We have shadowing here. So we're going to use our standard darks here, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, and a little bit of sap green. And that's actually works out good. That little bit of blending with the other colors on the page here, that works good. The shadowing underneath the benches. There's some benches over here, so I'm kind of really doing that very soft, and I guess I'm not trying to create too many details on the right side here. I'm just trying to blend it nice and softly over here, and maybe we can add some details over here. Once this is all dry, we can do some details there and maybe make it more true to life with the picture. And we'll put this, that's a building in the distance there. We'll get that complete. And then there's some darks back there too, across, like that. And we'll have fun with this this boardwalk here. A little bit of yellow ochre. I just added a little bit of yellow ochre over here just to warm this up a little bit. Seems like there's a lot of cool colors here, a lot of blue, and if we add a little bit of a wash of yellow ochre or raw sienna, that works pretty good. And we'll move up to a larger brush when we do the this area here. So I'm going to go to quite a bit of a larger brush here. Maybe I'll go with something. Yeah, maybe I'll use the Raphael here. So this, we'll step up the size of our brush just a little bit as we do this section here and the sky. And then once we're done with that, we're going to let that dry. And then we'll do our final details where we'll put in some windows and doors here and there, use a little bit of our white paint, titanium white, to do a couple details. But for the most part, we're really looking good here. So let's take another break, and then we'll come back when this is dry, and we'll start. Actually, let's put in our first wash of our boardwalk now. So this is going to be, we're going to have those brick colors of the buildings once we get some of the other darks here. So let's do some burnt umber, raw umber. Burnt umber, raw umber, a little bit of blue. And we'll start just... Okay, this is the boardwalk. We're going to try to really make that interesting. It's got some blues, some browns. It's a wood planks here. It's looking really good. And as you can see, we're just doing some simple brush strokes just to get that feeling of the boards, and we just keep mixing our burnt umber, cerulean blue, a little bit of French ultramarine, a little bit of raw umber. Now here we said we had some more bright light. Let's keep that bright over there. And then we just try to, I'm looking at my photograph. Makes sense, right? I'm going to look at my photograph and try to just get a feel for what is there with the light. Again, we made our pencil lines just so we had a guide to where we needed to go with our brush strokes, so that helps a lot. So I'm going to do And if it's too light, you can dab up a little bit with some tissue. That looks pretty good. Here we can do some planks. So as we go this way, we can sort of get some planks in here. Again, I'm mixing the same color, cerulean blue, raw umber, burnt umber. And we can do some planks. So we can make a few shapes of planks here as in the foreground. We wouldn't see them over here so much. But in this front section here in the foreground, we definitely would see a few of the planks, so that's fine. And that's pretty good. And then we're going to go in again with that with the red from the buildings. Red brick that gets reflected down into the boardwalk. And we said that the boardwalk was, there was some rain, it just rained a few minutes ago in this scene. So we can see the rain and on the boardwalk, and we can also do some that should be good. And I'd like to just maybe I'll scrub these this section here. We'll make that, we'll just and then it gets darker. So we'll let this dry now. And again, we make our shadow colors, and then there's some shadows under here too, like that. And maybe we'll make that cooler. It's not quite white paper. It's got a little bit of tone to it. Let's get that on there. We could that should be good. And some more cerulean blue. I'll just do a little bit of splashing here. The splashing doesn't look good. All right, let's wait. Okay, let's let this dry a little bit. We'll come right back and we'll finish up the details here. All right, we had another break. We're going to actually work on the sky colors now. Really, we're just going to go with a simple sky wash. With a painting with this much detail, we're going to use just some simple cerulean blue. Mix up a little bit of that, a little bit of brown in there, a little bit of blue, some burnt umber, some raw umber, just a touch, with that cerulean blue to make it a nice, interesting blue. And we'll put it on, and we're careful here at the spires. We're going to dab off a little bit of the paint. We don't want to have that become a problem with the water reactivating the paint there. So we can I just dabbed up a little bit of paint, put some wash on, and then dab it up a little bit just so the color gets on there a little bit. Some of the wash color. And then here we can add just a little bit of orange, cadmium orange, just at the horizon line. And the same there too. We can blot up a little bit once we add some wash to that. And that's pretty good. So our sky wash is now complete. That was simple. And we can always go in and make a cloud if we want. Add a little French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, raw umber. Makes it a little more interesting. I was just trying to get some of that water off the tape up here so it doesn't make any cauliflowers or blooms over there. And that should be fine. I'll put some cool wash, cerulean blue, just over some of the white paper. Then over here, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, raw umber. I tap off a little bit of paint on a paper towel or a tissue. And then I'm just going to do some windows here. Just some indications. Nothing fancy or less is more. So if we just go with some quick brush strokes like that, that's fine. And then we have a little bit of horizontal shadows. So I just put a few of those in. Nothing, again, try to do it haphazardly, not too fussy with this. Same up here. There is a shadow there. And I sort of skip a spot sometimes instead of making it all one line. You know, a little bit of a line, skip a spot a little bit more. And there's some canopies here. So I'm just going to get a feel for maybe some canopies over here. There's a window and a door here. There's shadow under here. And I'm just going to try to work in some of these details. There's some shadowing under the stone wall here, so we'll do that. There's some shadowing here and some darks. I'm going with very minimal details. Of course, this has more details over here. as the subject matter of the hotel here in the distance, this is more softer and not as many details, but we will put in some details as we go here. Let's French ultramarine, blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, maybe some raw umber. And then here again too, let's do some details, but we don't have to go too fancy, just some wrought irons, railings here. And just enough detail that we can kind of see that it's like that. Then we just make sure our this is dry. The wash is over here, so we can start to. We'll make some blue. We'll just try to mix up this color a little bit so that when we're doing our windows here. And then as things go into the distance here, we have less detail. And I'll just try to make the points of these roofs a little more okay, you'll see that we're kind of really everything is looking good. We're just getting the final details. We don't want to do too much with the details, you know. That's pretty much good. And then we can do just a quick little, like for these here, these are pretty good actually. And there's a couple small, just a couple small details on these roofs here. It's just kind of nice to get those few little indications of some things on the roofs here. And that's pretty good. A couple lines, just a few. And I think that's good. And maybe we'll go with a little more, just a little bit of shadow here. All right, I hope we had fun. I hope everyone will consider subscribing. We do these videos every week. We change our subject matter, of course. We change some of our techniques and our styles, but pretty much this is what we do here. And I hope you had fun with this. I hope you enjoy the process of just the different steps that we do as we go forward in a painting. We start off, we make our hash marks, we get a feel for where our subject matter is going to be within our rectangle. Once we're completed with that, we do our drawing. We carefully get our drawing happy, where we know it's looking good according to the photograph we're working from, or if we're even working outdoors and we're looking at a scene. And then once that's complete, then we can start our painting, and then we just carefully go along and work out our colors and our tonal values in our painting to capture that beautiful light and shadow and all the beautiful colors that we have in this beautiful scene here in Canada, in Quebec. Hope you enjoyed this again. We'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye. But before we go, we must not forget to peel the tape off, because some of my friends out there, I know you're going to tell me that we should peel the tape off, and it does look a lot better once we... All right, that's much better. And we could do a couple more windows and details on the tower, the main tower. But we could zoom in a little. Okay, happy painting, everyone. We'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.